That's why we create business. That's why we do this, because we want to create the opportunity for ourselves to develop freedom, whether that be time freedom, financial freedom, family freedom, location freedom, which has become like a really big thing over the last couple of years, right? Because COVID hits and then people realize they could work from anywhere. And so location freedom becomes a thing, right? You could actually do, if you leverage yourself appropriately and you follow all the stuff that we talk about constantly every week, you could move to another country. Like you could live in Tulum, Mexico, if you wanted to, and still run a highly effective real estate business and a real estate team. We've become our industry, that was very much hyper focused on neighborhood and township, has become a global entity. Right now, we're referring business all over the country and sometimes the globe. So depending on how you structure your business and how you build your business, it very much can create location freedom for you. So whatever freedom means to you, we always type it in the chat. It's a freedom day. And guys, hopefully we do this in person sometime soon. Just so you guys know, November 2nd, we're bringing Tom Ferry down to South Florida. So put that in your calendars, guys. It's a Thursday. We did it specifically on a Thursday on purpose so that you guys can shoot down on a Thursday and enjoy your weekend in South Florida, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. And then I'm going to pass the mic this morning. So as I promised you guys, we would bring guests from time to time into our weekly coaching. And the guests that we're bringing today, I'm really excited about. So Kevin Cottrell is on with us today. Kevin is a mentor of mine. Kevin's a fantastic friend of mine, and probably one of the smartest people I know when it comes to the real estate industry and really understanding the dynamics of running a true real estate business, right? So what I've asked Kevin to do is come in today and talk about strategies that he used to dominate markets that he didn't even know and no one knew him. New markets that he could walk into. Kevin's the kind of guy that will look at you and say, don't test me. I can come into your market and dominate over a certain period of time. And the reason that he's able to do that is because he will better understand the market more than anyone else that's in that market, because very rarely do real estate agents and professionals, right? Because real estate professionals, very rarely do we go into our market and do we study our market at a very high level, right? How many of you, just by a show of hands, goes every Monday, sits down in front of your computer, right? And I'm going to change my view so I can see everybody, but how many of you every Monday actually sits in front of your computer and says, I'm going to check the just listeds, just solds, the pendings. I'm going to compare that to last week, the week before, and the week before that. And I'm going to understand the percentages and the trends that are happening in the market. Who does it? We got one, right? And
I'm not doing it every Monday. I'm doing it every morning.
Awesome. So he's doing it every morning. He's studying it. Why? Because, and I don't know if you did it before our coaching and stuff like that, but we did mention this in the past, right? Create a hot sheet for yourself so you're getting that consistent email from the MLS every single morning so that you could wake up in the morning. One of the first things you can do is know your market, right? And understand your market. That changes everything. It changes conversations, right? The next time somebody comes up to you and says, hey, so you're in real estate, how's the market, right? That's like the number one question from everybody that finds out you're a real estate agent, right? How's the market, And the typical real estate response, market's awesome. We're rocking out there, right? And of course, because why would you look at a customer and go, the market's freaking shit. Like we're dying out here, right? Like I haven't sold a house in 6 months, No one's ever going to say that. You can talk to the rookiest of rookiest realtors and they will say, the market's great, right? But understanding your market helps you have a much more educated conversation about that, right? And it's okay. And believe it or not, when you have those educated conversations with people, they take that information, whether they understand the conversation or not. What they do walk away with is that you understand the conversation. You understand the market. You know your business, right? And then you could finish that conversation with, I promise you could ask any other realtor what the market's like, and they're going to say, great. Right? So I'm going to let Kevin take over. Kevin, thank you again for doing this with us today and joining
My
us.
pleasure.
Coaching, man. And folks, just give this attention. We are recording it, like I mentioned. This is personal to you guys. And then at the end of this session, I'm going to send you guys the link to jump into our coaching platform that we've discussed for a few weeks now. It's very rudimentary. It's very beginning stages. We're still building it out, so be patient with us. But what you will find in there is 2 course setups. One of the courses is going to be the mastermind that we hosted here in South Florida. So you guys will have access to see each of the presenters of that mastermind. And then the second thing you're going to see is every single recording that we've done every Thursday thus far. Okay. So you guys will have early access to that. Once you have access to it, download the app, do all the stuff, get involved, create community in there, start asking questions, bounce off of each other. There are people in here from New Jersey. There are people in here from all over the state of Florida. There are people in here from Virginia. You're going to be able to network with people out of your area and understand what other markets are going through. All right, Kevin, show's yours, man. Thank you again.
All right, my pleasure. My pleasure. So I'm going to run through a framework where, as David said, we would track every Monday market conditions. And I'm going to show you 2 very different markets. And I think David's ultimate goal is to have you guys have this framework. So it doesn't matter if you're in Florida in a particular market, or you're in Virginia or New Jersey or wherever you are, you need to be cognizant of the fact that market conditions are very local, right? One of the worst things I ever see out there is these articles that are national in focus, and they come out and say, well, here are the markets that are expected to collapse, or here's the strongest market. And they string together a couple of paragraphs and they try and make some big argument that these are overvalued, these are not overvalued, and they miss the fundamentals of supply and demand. So what I did, and I'm going to give you the story first and then I'll run through it, is I was a team leader for a big Keller Williams Market Center in South Florida, and I moved to St. Louis to go into production. There was a personal reason that I moved up there. So I only knew real estate agents, and they were in the market center that I was in at that point. And then the family for my ex-wife up there, who was a former team leader from Keller Williams, were all in the business too, right? It wasn't like I was going to get referrals from anybody. They were all competitors. And this was during the height of the financial debacle in 08, 09. And we know how bad it was. So I'm going to show you what market conditions looked like then and why I did this. And what we discovered was, to David's point, when people were trying to understand market conditions, they would, whether they're at a grocery store, they're at an open house, they're just out and about, would say things like David said. It's a hot market. Oh, the market's really, really terrible right now. A lot of things are not selling. There's lots of price reductions, just very generic terms. And in the end state, after I had tracked it for a lengthy period of time, about 2.5 years, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and CNBC and Fox Business News and a number of other outlets stopped calling the Board of Realtors and stopped calling the association for any market data, because they realized they didn't really understand what was going on. They would talk about what you typically hear, which is months of inventory and other things like that. So let's look at St. Louis, and I'll tell you why I did what I did. So this is a framework. David will have access to this template. It'll have to be modified for your market, but as you can see in here, what we started tracking was supply and demand. And there's a lot of numbers here, but I want to tell you a little bit of the reason behind what we did. So the biggest thing we had to figure out, and this is back when we were doing this in the height of the market crashing, meaning there was way more supply than demand, was to figure out, how do we tell how big the buyer pool is? So we studied it about 5 different ways over a period of time. And even though most transactions don't close in a 30-day period, the most accurate thing for measuring the buy side or buyer pool was looking at how many transactions went into pending status in a rolling 30-day period. So if you look across the spreadsheet there, the column E is pendings in the last 30 days. And so what we looked at is how big is that pool of buyers? And as you can see there, as you would expect, at the low end of the market, even in a terrible market, there were more pendings than there were in the higher price points, right? For example, in the 200 to 250 range, there's 63 pendings, and 31 of them, or just about half of them, went pending in the last month, and that results in a 13% pending ratio. And I'm going to show you again another hot market, and then David said he may want to jump in and show you in South Florida what some of the numbers look like today, because what you have to pay attention to is your local numbers. So when we look at this, here's what we're paying attention to. How big's my buyer pool, right? And I can scroll down through here and get you all the way to the bottom of the market, right? So I did another thing is I looked at the pending number. If you remember, the 30-day pending number is the column E. I look at it 4 weeks prior, right? So let's look at this market when I did this. A month before, there were 442 pendings in the previous 30 days. When I pulled this data on this Monday, it had dropped to 241. So what can I say about the overall size of the buyer pool? It decreased substantially, right? It went from a 16% penny ratio to 11.4. My buyer or demand side is shrinking. The other thing that I was observing in St. Louis was at the higher price ranges, things were really, really, really out of whack. People were listing properties. They were mostly expiring. And well, why was that, right? So look at like 700,000 to 750, which you see is in row 16 there. There were no pendings in the previous 30 days, 36 listings, and only 2 were actually pending. And so what I discovered very quickly is there was a huge imbalance. The column headers you can't see there in that price point, in other price points as well. The first number is the expireds. The second number is the sold. You can see how out of balance the expireds. Look at the very highest price point, 800,000 plus in St. Louis. Now, while only 4% of the listings are pending, there were a few that went pending. There's 1,365 expireds in 6 months against 339 that sold. Pretty easy to see you don't want to play in that market, right? Very few listings are selling. Now, if I scroll back up, I can then go look at the median price in St. Louis back at 250 to 299. It's a very different market. It's still not very strong. So what am I not talking about in here? And then I'll get to the Austin, Texas market before it got really, really crazy, right? This is back in when the market started to run. I'll show you the relative numbers so that you can see this. It's a very, very interesting thing, right? You know, you can see the expireds are about equal to the number of closings. It's way better. Remember how out of balance it was at the high end of the market? What I'm not talking about is months of inventory, right? I'm going to show you why the MLS and the boards come out with that. It's easy for them to track it. What is the standard adage? The standard adage is a balanced market is about 6 months of inventory. If it gets more than 6 months of inventory, it's trending towards a buyer's market. Well, that's true, but it doesn't tell you a lot about what's going on, which is helping a seller understand that there's only a couple of pendings. Nothing went pending in the last month. It's going to take us this many days to actually clear the market, right? If I scroll back down, this market velocity thing, and then I'm going to get into the Austin market, shows you how many days based on the 30-day number it would take to clear the market, right? And so in my median price, it's more than a year to clear the inventory, right? Not a great market. And I can tell you exactly why. If I go to the overall market in here, you can see that it's not really any better and it's getting worse, right? That's a function of the buyer pool shrinking. The buyer pool shrinks way faster than the listing side. People get their houses ready to go on the market. It takes time. They're committed. They're going to leave it out there. They maybe don't want to do a price reduction right away. We all know this. We're practitioners. We know that there's a battle out there. This data helps you get priced right up front because you can see what's going on. It also validates, especially in this market where we have been under supplied in terms of the supply side now, about why it's not totally crashing. And when we look at this, like for example, we pulled this for Sarasota, Manatee County over by Venice and Sarasota. And in that 250 to 300 price range, it was 394% pending ratio. In other words, there's almost 4 times as many things pending than there were active, right? That's a super hot market. So let me go to the Austin market so I can show this, and then I'll answer some questions for you. And David, just want to verify that you can still see that. I'm in the Austin market now. So
Yep, we see
this,
it.
okay, perfect. So I'm going to go through a couple of these fairly quickly just so you can see them. I'll go to a 250 to 299 price point. This was a little bit below the median in Austin when this was polled. You can see it's 71%. There's only 2 months of inventory. You can see that the ratio of closings to expireds, right? So if I go 250 to 299, I've got almost 945 closings in 6 months, only 142 expireds. I bring this up because the one thing you don't want to go do is build your market for listings with expireds and canceled listings in a hot market. It won't work. Most things are selling. The things that are not selling are going to be just not sellable, right? You can see it's exactly the opposite of the St. Louis market here. And this is not as hot as it's got, right? Somebody sent me the numbers. I've got a friend that uses this spreadsheet in Austin now. And I think there were single digit expireds in a price point like 400 to 450 over 6 months. Like 5 or 6 listings expired over a 6-month period. And yet you got coaches and you got people telling you just blankly, go after expireds and cancel. It's a great place to build a business. The market's shifting. Well, if you don't know what your numbers are, you're not going to have any clue about how good it is or how bad it is. And you can see here, all this validates is months of inventory just tell you how many months of inventory there are. It doesn't tell you how many are expiring versus what are selling. And I'll go to the bottom of this. Whoops. I think I just lost my sheet back to the other one. Give me 1 second, David. I don't know why.
I'm still on the Austin market.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, you're still in Austin.
Okay, good. Yeah, so if you look at the market for it, and you go through and we scroll down and we look at going down to the bottom, we can see a very different trend. Remember my 30-day pending number? It wasn't quite cut in half in St. Louis because the market was continuing to decline and weaken. Look what happened in Austin when we were pulling this. We went from 1,000 pendings in the previous 30-day period to almost 2,000. It almost doubled in a month. This is when the market was absolutely accelerating. There was not enough inventory and things were really starting to run. And so we were able to, and I had a team here in Austin when we were doing this with Mark Martin, and we were able to coach our sellers and the buyers that they were competing with a lot of clients. It was really starting to accelerate. And you can see that it changed dramatically in a 30-day period. That's the norm that you'll see on the buy side. It changes way faster than the listing side. You don't hear me talking about months of inventory because although it changed, it went from 4.5 to 2.2. And that's because supply takes longer to catch up. Sometimes it never catches up. And so if we go back up here
Kevin,
a little bit, yes, sir.
Sorry to
Yes, sir.
interrupt you. Somebody was asking if you could continue to use your mouse to point at the numbers so that they know what you're looking at.
Okay. Yeah. So absolutely. Thank you, David. So if you look at it here, right here, I'm highlighting the numbers here. That's the 30-day pending number. It went from 1,003 to 1,966 in a month. That tells you how we almost doubled the size of the buyer pool in a month overall in the market. And that's what you should be paying attention to because it can go exactly the opposite way in a month or two and dramatically change your market. But if you're not tracking it weekly and you're not using a 30-day rolling number for the demand side, you're potentially going to run into issues where you're going to have problems if you're looking at months of inventory, right? Because the months of inventory didn't change that dramatically, right? You can see they're all in fairly low amounts, but still, even in Austin, when it started to take off, you saw we doubled our buyer pool, but you could see here at the high end, it hadn't adjusted that much yet, right? We didn't have that many more buyers in. So for a long time in Austin, for example, the demand was much more around the median and slightly above it than it was in the high end. This is before all the Californians and the people from the Chicago and the Northeast started moving into Austin and buying higher end houses. It took a while for it to move up, but think about all the intelligence that I can gather around this type of market data. And so, David, I don't know if you want to let people ask some questions. I'll stop the sharing, and then you can maybe, if you want, to pull up your data for South Florida, give them a relative comparison on some of your stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So I also want to show you how easy it is to pull this data. Okay. And so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Give me 1 second. And I just, while Kevin was talking, I just started pulling some rudimentary data and looking at some stuff, but I'm going to do an overall thing. You can get as granular as you want with this. You can get very focused on your area, your town, depending on where you live, right? I'm going to do like Miami-Dade County, but if I wanted to, I could do Homestead or Coral Gables or West Kendall or downtown Miami or Miami Beach or Miami Lakes or, North Miami, Aventura. All of those are very busy, popular, condensed areas in the Miami-Dade County area. So all of them, if I divided it up, I would get different trends for the different areas. More than likely, Coral Gables will tend to sit on the market a little bit longer, prices a little bit higher, but it's a strong market because people want to be in Coral Gables. And the money that happens, that tends to be in Coral Gables is usually legacy money, so it stays longer, right? You guys hearing what I'm saying? So you get to kind of point out these things. Let me pull up my screen real quick. All right, you guys can see my MLS okay?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Thank you. All right, so if I just did a residential search, and again, I'm going to keep this super, super simple, right? I'm going to have my set. So I'll choose Miami-Dade County. Maybe I want to focus on the single family that happens to be my market. I don't do a lot of condos. So I'll stick to that single family market in Miami-Dade County, right? And then if I click closed and I go 0 to 30 days, well, right away, I could see 942 matches. In the last 30 days, 942 homes have sold in Miami-Dade County, single family as a whole. No price points, no nothing. We're just doing a very 30,000-mile view, right? But check this out. I can come here and go 30 to 60 days. 1144. Are the closings going down or up?
Going down.
You're going down, right? You're starting to notice that, right? Now remember 1144. Let's go 60 to 90 days. 60 to 90 days. What do we got? 1185. It was a small shift down, but it was still a shift down, right? Let's go 90 to 120 days. Now we're at 1411, right?
Yeah.
So 120 to 180 days. Let's just do that. Look at the difference. Look at the difference there.
Yeah,
That's
you would catch that, David, by looking at the 30-day pending number faster, because it's going to. I mean, it's definitely slowing down. But if you go down to the next box,
yep, we're going to do that right
that
now.
are in Florida, yeah, you'll see that 30-day pending number, and you will see where it's likely changed even more dramatically.
Yep. So we go 0 to 30 on pending. 568. Remember that number. 568. 285, 30 to 60. 60 to, where were we? 90. 104. So we're starting to see a little bit of a difference here, right? And what do you think that was? It was harder to get a property under contract, right? It was harder to get a property under contract. There was less inventory. That's what you're starting to see now. Looking at these pending numbers kind of going up a little bit, it's an indication, even though closings have reduced, it's an indication that more inventory is on the market right now. Right? 90 to 120 days. Look at this. This is all of Miami-Dade County, guys. You know how tough it was to get a property under contract 5 months ago, 4 months ago,
Right.
right?
There's not, well, that's what happens when you get to a suboptimal level of supply. There's too many buyers and there's way too little supply. And you, as David said, you can't get things under contract. I mean, there's a point at which the marketplace gets locked up because people also on the supply side look around and say, I can't put my house on the market. If it goes under a contract with multiple offers the first day, where would I possibly move?
Yep. And then now let's look at actives. How many actives? So we're assuming that the inventory is going up, but let's look at it. How many went active in the last 30 days? 1361, 30 to 60 days, 929, right? So you start to see that number go down, right? 60 to 120, 855, right? 120 to 150, right? 186, 150 to 190, 129. So you see the big differences, guys, right? If you could track this consistently, and again, we could get very granular. I could go right into my zip code and see what my numbers are.
Right. Now,
Right.
just as a side note, the reason that you saw like the St. Louis information or the Austin information was bigger numbers is you always want to pull comps and get granular in your local market, but you have to have like a big area like Miami-Dade County or St. Louis County or Travis County in Austin, Texas, so you can look at enough data to have it trend, right? If you end up with single digit numbers for everything, it's not going to be a trend. Whereas if you saw with David, it was pretty easy to see that there was a dramatic difference as he was looking at numbers either increasing or decreasing, depending whether he's looking at the actives or he's looking at the pendings on the other side of it, because you have to have enough data that you're looking at consistently so that you can trend it, right? Is my buyer pool increasing or is it decreasing? Is my inventory increasing or decreasing? And that's why when you look at that rolling 6 month expired versus sold, you'll see that change last, just like months of inventory. Like the numbers that come out from the National Association of Realtors are a quarter behind. They're worthless. It's great, it gets lots of press, but if you're watching every Monday your 30-day pending number and your numbers and your different price points, you'll be at least a quarter ahead of your board and MLS, all of your competitive agents in your market, and you'll actually be able to give better advice at the kitchen table if you're listing, or if you have buyers that think that the bottom fell out, you can show them, well, it really hasn't. We're still at, 200% pending ratios in the price range you're looking at, and you're not going to get to go steal it because, by the way, here's the list of sale on everything that's closed in the last 6 months. It's still over 100%, right? There's a lot of good data here if you pull it correctly.
And I'll show you guys also, when you look at markets, right? And this is something I learned a long time ago, and Kevin talked about it a little bit earlier. But when you look at markets, if there's not a ton of expireds in your market, like right now in my market, 171 expireds in the entire Miami-Dade County is nothing, right? Like, let's be honest, right? But if I were to really hone in on my neighborhood and focus on that, there's 4. Do you think it'd behoove of me to get Red X and start calling expires? No, doesn't make sense, right? That's not where my market is, right? But how many properties in my neighborhood went active in the last 30 days? 35, right? How many of my properties closed in the last 30 days? 11. How many went pending? 15, right? So there's still opportunity in my zip code for me to go hit my zip code with whatever marketing. And so this is what I call ground battle marketing, right? You put your boots on, you strap them up. This is when you turn the suit into a polo and a pair of shorts and some sneakers, and you hit the streets. And so it's going to come back to the days of postcards, door knocking, influencing, promoting restaurants in the local area, putting your business cards at the front of restaurants, right? Like, I know in my neighborhood, we used to see that all the time. Now you don't see it ever, right? But before, you used to walk into some of these local mom and pop shops, and there'd be 30 realtors that had their business cards on the front of the restaurant on the billboard, right? And so, please take one. I have a house for sale in the area. Please take one. The little ripoffs on the bottom. You don't really see that anymore because homes don't stay on the market as long anymore. But that is shifting, that is changing. And in a normalized market, you're actually going to have to go put boots on the ground and go get back to relationship building, back to people frontage, back to shaking hands and kissing babies, back to, delivering information to communities. And there are ways to really dominate. Like if you know these numbers at a really, really strong pace, imagine if you had a monthly or a quarterly town meeting on the real estate market and you ran it. There's no reason why you can't do that, by the way. It's just going to take some work. Run some ads in the neighborhood and the zip code saying that you're going to focus on that area. Get out to the local restaurants and let them know that you're going to be doing it. If you can post up a sign, right? Go door knock 1,000 homes over the next 30 days and say, in a couple months, we're going to do this. Can I get you registered on our Eventbrite? And get people registered so you can communicate with them throughout the time frame to have this. I know agents that have dominated entire areas like Coral Gables and Coconut Grove by being in front of more people. And they take over a restaurant once a quarter and they give the state of the official State of the Union delivery speech on what's happening in their community. Homeowners want to know. They want to know. And right now they're getting their information from, like Kevin said, articles that are good a quarter ago. They're not getting current information. So if you could be knowledgeable at this at a very high level and deliver this at a very high level, imagine how much more effective you could be, when focused and having conversations with people. The other thing is understanding when you're going to market an area, understanding how many closed deals, and I like looking 6 months back, this is me, how many closed deals happened in that market in comparison to how many homes are in that market. Okay. If you see that there are 5,000 homes in a market and only 50 to 70 of them closed in the last 6 months, is that the market you really want to market in? Is that where you want to throw all your money into? Is that where you really want to focus on? Or do you just shift to the market that's 10 minutes away from you that has 3,000 homes and had 1,000 pendings? Right? And so I'm a big believer. There are ways you can pull these stats on Realist. There are ways that you can pull these stats on IMAP. I'm old school. Okay. So I do EDDM USPS. I go to their website and I call this old school because, we didn't have all the cool tech that's out there. But for those of us that understand, we can go here. And so you can pull a map up, right? So enter an address or zip code, 33175, Miami, Florida. I keep telling y'all where I live, right? I want residential and consumers only. I don't care for businesses or PO boxes, right? So I hit next, radius, just next. Let me get in there. Next. That's going to take, I can zoom in on this map and get right into that zip code. And it's going to tell me based on where I hover over. Can you see the numbers there on the left side? Right. So this is where I live, that little area right there. And that little area right there has 298 homes. This area right here has 540 homes. This area has 563 homes. It tells me the average household size is 2.4 and the household income is 181,000. You think this might be a good market to tap into? Think about it. 563 households with an average income of 181,000 and 132 matches on closed deals in the last 6 months. Yeah, I'll rock that market out. Right? That's what, about 30% of the market closed in the last 6 months. I'll keep pushing. But you have to consistently study those market numbers and study the numbers based on what you're seeing so that you can better understand if you should continue to market in that area and what type of marketing you should be doing. Is it more the lesser expensive route because you need to be cost conscious, which is being out there consistently? It doesn't cost you any money to hit the road, right? Or should you be investing in postcards in that area? Should you be hitting that area up with mailers? Should you be leaving things in front of houses, right? Back in the day on Halloween, a friend of mine used to have she used to do the pumpkins, and then she went, she had the tents on the side of the road, right? So she had several spaces. She went from pumpkins to, the Christmas trees, and then from Christmas trees to fireworks. Like that was like, she worked like 3 months a year, and then like the rest of the year she was good because of that income. And I used to go to her, I used to rent the U-Haul, go to her, and I would buy like 500 pumpkins. And I would take 500 little flyers that said, have a great Halloween, enjoy carving this pumpkin. And I would take a push pin and pin it right into the pumpkin with my information on it. And I would go from house to house to house to house with a couple members of my team and dropping off pumpkins. It was necessary. You don't do that today. I haven't had to for a couple years, but it was necessary to be able to get your name out there consistently, right? I see yesterday a story of a study that was conducted where they went to a gated community and they went door to door taking a survey asking who is the premier real estate professional in this area. And everybody gave a name, but there was no consistent name. There was no one that they could say, based on the survey that they created, that this realtor dominates this market. So they created a fake realtor, fake picture, fake name, fake email address, fake phone number, fake everything, okay? And they did an 8x8 campaign, which means that they hit that market for 8 weeks straight with an 8x8 campaign. And we can talk more about that next week if you want to on the 8x8 campaigns, but they hit that market for 8 weeks. They went back out to survey, and 60% of the community said that agent, the fake agent, was the agent of the community. They didn't even know this agent. How could they? It was a fake stock picture, fake name, fake phone number, fake everything. But because they had registered in their heads consistently for the last 8 weeks that this was the person in the community, they became the premier agent in that community. So what does that mean to you? You could choose your community, and over the next 8 weeks, you can do postcards, you can do door knocking campaigns, you could do a bus bench in the area if you can do it. You can go to the local restaurants and local shops in the area, introduce yourself, ask if you can leave a few business cards, visit them once a month, do a live on Facebook with them and introduce them to everybody, or just record the video so you could put one restaurant or one location out every couple of days. So it doesn't look like you went walking one day and got everybody at the same time, right? Just do a quick video with them. Tell me about your store. What do you sell here? This is great. Thank you. And then tag them on everything you do. This is coordinated. It's like a coordinated attack, right? I'm telling you to take the platoon that we talked about, build your squad, go hit the streets, and get super coordinated on how you're attacking that neighborhood. And I commit to you that if you stay consistent with this, all you have to do is stay consistent with it and stay in front of people, and you will start to get deals in the area. So what's the next thing that happens for you in that community? Street signs go up, that for sale sign with your picture on it, right? And we'll talk more about marketing in a couple of weeks, but you want to use the same phone number, same email address, same picture, same logo, same everything. You want a same color scheme that you're using on everything you drop off everywhere. Your social media ad needs to look like your for sale sign. Your for sale sign needs to look like your flyer. Your flyer needs to look like your business card. You have to have that brand consistency. Nike does not sell you Nike shoes with different logos on every shoe. You feel what I'm saying, guys? Yes, thumbs up. All right. Anybody have any questions? I want to open it up. Kevin's still on the line with us. I believe, Kevin, you're still there? Oh, I think he fell off. All right, does anyone have any questions so far? I want to open it up for questions.
Be nice if you could share the spreadsheet.
Yes, so Kevin's gonna send it over to me.
Great, thanks.
And then what I'm gonna do is I'll make a private copy for us and then I'll share it in the email. As a matter of fact, oh, he just texted me and said the power went out in the area he's at.
Thanks for the notes on the EDDM. I didn't think about looking at that for the total numbers. That's great.
Yeah, that's what I used to do to get total numbers of an area, right? And then so instead of picking a zip code, what I would do is say, okay, I like this community. So how many homes are in this community? And I would click it on the map, because when you click it on the map, it'll stay highlighted, right? And then I would like put the MLS side by side, and I would just draw my polygon around what was highlighted there. And then I would say, okay, there's 500 homes in here, and 40 of them closed and 100 and something of them are pending. I could roll with that. That's a market I'll tap into. There were other communities, and you'll see as the market shifts, where they'd be 500 homes and 4 closings and like 12 pendings. That's not a market you want to spend money and time in, right? Oh, and I've heard, but Dave, I live here. Well, that's cool. You're one of the people that closed out of the 3 homes in however many times, but that's not a market you're going to go canvas. Like, it costs money to send postcards out and create flyers and do all this stuff. So be money cautious, be business minded, and go, I'm not going to open an ice cream shop made from fresh milk in a vegan gated community. You guys feel me? It's not going to happen. You're going to be a failing business, right? So don't put your money into a failing area. Joseph, you had something?
Yeah, I wondered if Kevin could go over how he came up with he mentioned a couple different ratios on the spreadsheet. If he could.
Yeah, so he just dropped off. Okay. I'll get him to come back on, but I know the ratios he's working is based on the numbers he's pulling. So he's going month over month over month over month, and then he's dividing and creating the percentages on a month over month basis. So if you looked at the bottom of the worksheet, you'll see like it was like 0 to 30, and then it was like 30 to 180 or something like that. And it was basically running like, in comparison to the last 6 months, what's my ratio over the last 30 days? All right, anyone else have any questions? All right, it's absolutely fantastic to see everybody joining us today. I appreciate you guys coming week after week. Feel free to invite folks to come in. This is every Thursday at 11 a.m. We're always going to bring you as much massive and amazing information as we can. Thank you guys for joining in. We'll get you guys the email out. Give us a little time, because I want to make sure I got the worksheet in the email that goes out. Okay.